Oh, I don't think we should talk about this. Come on, why not? People might misunderstand. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that may be. People at home or in the crowd, it keeps coming up anyhow. Don't decoy, avoid, or make void the topic, cause that ain't gonna stop it. Now, just talk about it. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that I don't think we should talk about this. Come on, why not? People might misunderstand. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that make.
Hey, hey. Let me see if my sound's good. Might be up. Okay, that's better, huh? No? Uh, I give up with this stuff. I really do anymore. Oh, my mic's way up there. Okay, now I got you. Now you're loud. Too loud. Okay. How's everybody doing on this beautiful Saturday afternoon? Beautiful, beautiful day. Oh, Cash, thank you for renewing. Welcome back to Poolside. Appreciate that. Hi, all crying with Andy. How are you? I don't know if anybody's even going to come because there's so many people live right now. But that's okay because I really did today's live because someone asked me to talk about this story. One of my friends and subs. So I told her I would, and here I am finally talking about it. And then I, Pete, huh? Um, I've got some Tata stuff to talk about. Mm, got some things to show y'all. Yeah. And then the other day, remember, I did a live with the Daisy and Janky's crazy sister story and about rap and or what do they call him? Chili Billy getting arrested in front of Chili Billy's kids at that festival for summer. Yeah. Well, I have another little clip of which what I'll do is I'll replay the short video of the whole debacle of the arrest, but I'm not going to replay the whole live where Janky lets everybody, including herself, blame everything and accuse her sister Daisy. Um, you just don't take that's your sister, Jenks. At the end of the day, anyway. But I wish I would have had that to show when I did the live, but it kind of will make sense about why they went. They continued even after that to go so hard on Daisy. Oh, oh, Andy. Well, I hope everything gets better. I hear you. I'm having some complications from my surgery, and I don't want to end up back in the OR Monday, but it's kind of looking that way. I'm really not in the right mindset. But anyway, today is I don't know if you're familiar with the Take Care of Maya story. Um, it's really there's a lot right now. The civil trials going on because the family is suing the hospital for over what 220 million or 200 million. They have dropped the lawsuit against the social worker, um, the part against the social worker, but not against John Hopkins. It's a whole mess. The girl was 9 years old, was taken to the ER. Um, she has this rare disorder, or so they were telling the hospital, but the ER was seeing different red flags, and the doctors were seeing different red flags, and she had been being treated with ketamine, which they have used successfully with a lot of things, a lot of mental health issues. If done right, you know, I guess the hospital didn't agree with that. Um, they had called in social services, DCF. You know, custody was she was put in protective custody because they thought that there was some Munchausen syndrome going on with the mom. Anyway, I'm going to read it all to you because it's just a lot. And I'm not going to go like, I'm not going to, because the trial is 8 to 10 hours every day. I mean, they've been in trial since what, September? I got some snippets that I found watching the trial and watching the news, the different news networks and stuff. I'll play some highlights like her testimony and then because her mother ended up committing unaliving herself. 80 days, after 80 days of not being able to see her daughter, the mother unalived herself. And now we're in a big lawsuit saying that it was all the hospital's fault, um, blaming the hospital for everything, and there was no reason to do any of it. And you guys are going to have to listen to the snippets, or you can even go to Law and Crime's been covering the trial every day. You can go and listen to the trial. I've got, there's the last letter from her mom, which they made public, of course, because they've used the public a lot and social media. I'm not sure how I feel about this as far as this huge settlement. And now there's, I'm just not sure how I feel about the whole thing because I can see on the medical professional side, their job is to protect their patient. It's a tough one. That's a tough one. Uh, I think 220 million is astronomical, but okay. Um, that hospital does a lot for children. Just try to remember that and families. Unfortunately, this one didn't go so well. But yeah. And then there's the last letter from her mom and then her testimony. There's been lots of interviews, and I'm going to show you some of each of all that. But first, I'm going to start off, and I think I even already have it loaded. Hey, I'm starting to get a little bit professional here. Not. I just had a couple minutes. My husband's home fixing everything. He's had to put new guts in both toilets, and now we just found out the garbage disposal is just not fixable. So he has to go get a new one and get it put in. But I got so much more. I got so much more. I got a whole list for him. It's a whole to-do list. Okay. This is the article. This is one of them, this was published back in September. But the reason I'm going to read this is because it gives you the backstory, background, just enough so you know what's going on. It's really a sad story. It says, "Take care of Maya. Alleged medical abuse case that broke family apart heads to trial." It's been 5 years since Maya Kowalski's family accused hospital staff of wrongful medical abuse allegations. It's taken 5 years to bring this to court. But medical malpractice is a lot different than other, civil. They can drag that out for years and years. It's, like where BHB's frivolous lawsuit, that's just a frivolous civil suit. You will not get away with dragging that out for 5 to 10 years like you would a medical malpractice. And I know because unfortunately I was involved in one. I wasn't being sued. Thank God. But it can drag out. Okay. And this is for Tazzy. I told you, girl, I'd look into it and I'd talk about it for you. Here I am. And I went down the rabbit hole for days, watching hours after hours of court trials. Oh, testimony can be boring. Anyway, this story discusses unalivement and it tells you what to do. There's a number there anybody needs to call. I think I got it as big as I can get it. Okay, the jury selection in this article had just begun. In fact, as of right now, I was watching Uncivil Law yesterday, and there's a complaint a request in to remove a juror from this trial. So I don't know what's going to happen there. I didn't finish it to find out. It's kind of crazy, but this is, and In 2016, at just 10 years old, Maya Kowalski, the girl at the center of the Netflix documentary, was admitted to Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital in St. Petersburg, Florida, for severe pain and then promptly removed from the custody of her parents after staff accused them of medical abuse. It wasn't promptly, but okay. Her mother, Vieta Kowalski, unalived herself in the garage on January 27th, 2016, to free her daughter after going months without seeing her due to medical abuse allegations, according to the family's attorney. It's been extremely difficult on the Kowalskis after what they went through, and it's disappointing. The level of litigation they have to go through to get their right to speak in court. No, it's not. They knew that coming in. I'm sure you lawyers explained the long, drawn out, forever process medical malpractice is. So, okay. Um, any litigation is in civil can be maddening. Anderson told Fox Digital ahead of jury selection, "It's been overwhelming for my law firm, my other clients, and my family." Okay, so then hire more attorneys, or maybe you should sell it to a bigger firm, because you're not going to be able to claim, or you're going to use that as the. Okay. And in the picture it says Maya Kowalski's mother, Vieta Kowalski, was accused of Munchausen by proxy after explaining her daughter's CRPS and treatment to hospital staff. And I'm going to read you about that. In fact, I have a doctor that's going to talk about it too. The Netflix doc told a little bit of the story, but there's a lot more to it, he added. Take Care of Maya follows the story of Maya and Vieta, a registered nurse. Her mom was a registered nurse. As they navigate Maya's rare chronic neurological condition called complex regional pain syndrome. And there's not a lot known about this, especially at the time, A poorly understood affliction that causes severe pain throughout a person's body due to nervous system dysfunction, according to the Cleveland Clinic. And it's excruciating pain. And she had been on so many meds and so much pain medicine. And she had been receiving ketamine treatments at a clinic, which usually are IV treatments. And it was giving her relief, and she could go without any flare-ups. So I don't know. There's not a lot of studies done about it either. So Maya's father sued Johns Hopkins All Children's and medical personnel assigned to his daughter treatment in 2018, alleging the hospital falsely accused Vieta of medically abusing Maya and failing to properly care for his daughter, causing his family emotional distress. It's a convenient way to get rid of troublesome parents, particularly parents that are complaining about a lack of care or attention on their child. Anderson said of child medical abuse claims made against families with hospitalized children. Now, I don't know if that's true. I don't believe that. Dr. Kirkpatrick, who specializes in pain relief, initially diagnosed Maya with CRPS when she was 9 years old and helped her get treatment for the illness, which included doses of ketamine to help dull her pain. The treatment worked for a while until she relapsed at age 10 in 2016 when she was admitted to Johns Hopkins in St. Petersburg. So the treatments helped alleviate some, but then within a few months she was back to flaring up again. And a lot of doctors think this is all neurological, and some think it's mental health that, there's, like I said, It's sad what happened, this story. Yetta, who took malicious meticulous notes on Maya's illness due to her experience as an RN, that's the mom, insisted with doctors and nurses at the children's hospital that Maya had been diagnosed with CRPS and that doses of ketamine help with her pain. There's a picture of her and her doctor, the one who started her on the ketamine. But it didn't, it did give her some relief, but it didn't last. That's sad. Overzealous potentially though, but if they made an error, then of course family deserves compensation and apology. Does not reflect on the hospital employees not involved. So, yeah, yeah. Like I said, it's a tough one because were they solely responsible because of calling in CPS and stuff because they suspected Munchausen, which had been also Munchausen had been referred to in her daughter's medical records from another doctor. He This wasn't the first time that that's been suspected. Um, which unfortunately, when your child has something going on that they can't 100% diagnose or prove, then, and there's a lot of constant medical ER visits, hospitalizations, doctor visits, doctor shopping, whatever. That's one of the first things they think of because they got to protect the child. So it's a catch-22. Um, if they did, which we're gonna find out, if the jury does see fit, that's just a lot of money. I don't know. I think that's the issue that I have is the amount of money and the amount of social media. But if that is the case, and that's what why the mom did that, then yeah, they are responsible. I just think they're going to have a hard time proving that that is the reason the mom did that because she wasn't allowed to see her daughter. That was going to change. That we're fighting all that. That was, I don't know. I just have questions about that, I guess. It's just a sad story. It's so sad. The little girl needed her mama. It's just so sad. But how do we know that in the doctor's eyes, he wasn't doing everything? And in CPS and the social worker, they weren't doing everything that they had to do to protect this child. I mean, it's crazy. There's some more testimony I want to listen to. Is the burden of proof in medical cases the same as civil, as in reasonable doubt, not beyond? Well, no, not really. In medical, you got to have a good lawsuit for medical malpractice, and that's what this is. You got to have some evidence. You can't just, yeah. We did, and we had tons. And honestly, the first 3 minutes into the first day of court, and the jury seen what the defendant was experiencing, yep, their faces said it all. You couldn't have, I mean, it was, so there was no need for any more of a trial. The lawyers went into settlement immediately after that. They were only minutes after opening statements. Minutes. And like I said, we weren't in court that long that day. But you got to have evidence. You've got to have medical evidence to back you up. Hospital staff interpreted her insistence as hostility and did not believe everything she said about her daughter's condition. As Beata demanded the staff allow Maya to take ketamine to ease her pain, Dr. Smith, the medical director of Pinellas County Child Protection Team, intervened and accused Beata of medically abusing her daughter. It didn't happen so quickly, but okay. An accusation by which the hospital still stands after a Sarasota County court determined that the staff had reasonable cause to suspect abuse. Okay, now that's a court determined that they had reasonable cause. See, that's my issues. Is that's why there's some more trial I want to listen to, because I could do 5 videos on this and still not cover even a portion of the trial. So yeah, but I'll cover the verdict. Doctors called the Florida Department of Children and Families, DCF, to report their suspicions of medical abuse. Maya was put into the custody of Child Protective Services worker Catherine Beatty. Okay, the Child Protective, or I'll show you. They did drop the social worker. I'm not sure if it's the same one from the lawsuit. Okay, so the social services worker was Catherine Beatty at the hospital, where she remained for months without seeing her parents. So even the dad was barred. Okay. This court has determined that John Hopkins All Children's Hospital reported suspected child abuse of Maya Kowalski in good faith. A September 12th request for special jury instructions states neither John Hopkins All Children's Hospital nor Catherine Beatty can be found legally liable for making that report. But you see what I mean? I mean, it's gonna. The reason I think one thing is in their favor is that the trial is taking so long, and there's so much long drawn out testimony that most people don't want to listen to, and you tone it out. It's just the jury's they're going to have to get the jury on big points, because if the defense don't, then the plaintiffs have a stronger case, because the jury just, I mean, you can only listen to so much. If a mother takes her life, then something wrong somewhere. Yeah, she did take her life, and she left a letter, and they talk about it, and I think they even show the letter. It's really sad. Um, it's really sad. There's not that many people in here, but I didn't expect there to be. Um, but that's okay, because, like I said, I did this for a friend. Anyway, so filing notes that Maya was lawfully taken into custody by the Department of Children and Families on October 13, 2016. Huh. See, that there's another thing that's hard for me to get over. Um, were they doing what they needed to do to protect this child, or did they go too far and go to the extreme? According to courts that reviewed this, no, they didn't. Like I said, Anderson previously told Fox News Digital that because Maya had been treated by a number of physicians before being properly diagnosed, which I told you in the beginning, that's one of the red flags that they look for when they start suspecting Munchausen. Doctor shopping is what they call it. And because they don't like what a doctor says, or they don't get the outcome they want, they go find a doctor, try to find one that'll give them the one they want. I'm not saying that's the case here. I'm just saying that that's why that's a red flag, because there was a number of physicians before being properly diagnosed, which also could be because of the condition. So that's what I mean. It could go either way. But it is a red flag when medical staff is trying to figure out if this is Munchausen or not. And because Smith disagreed with the ketamine infusions as treatment, which this doctor did not agree with this child getting ketamine infusions, which is by IV, which is usually how it's done in a clinic. Smith determined that Beata was exhibiting signs of Munchausen by proxy. I hope I hope I'm pronouncing her first name right. Beta? I'll just say Beta. It's probably Beata, like I said, but I'll say Beta. Munchausen by proxy is a psychological disorder in which an abusive parent or caregiver makes up or causes an illness for a person in their care who is not actually ill. People affected by the disorder seek attention and sympathy, according to the Cleveland Clinic, where they just quote only the Cleveland Clinic in this article. You have to weave your way through an absolute maze through, at times, conflicting laws and procedures just to get here, Anderson said of the upcoming trial. We're very conscientious of the fact that I don't think any other case has really succeeded in this. That's a huge settlement, dude. That is a huge amount of money. 220 mil, that's a lot of money. When the patient herself is doing well and is very much with us. See, that's another hurdle. She was the patient. She's doing well and thriving, you know? Not so much about the disorder anymore. And a lot of doctors will say that they believe that the disorder she had was mental. And, some don't, but a lot do. He is hoping for success in Maya's case. However, saying that he feels very confident if we can get our case before the jury, that will do well. Yeah. The whole case has been defended by John Hopkins, not so much on the facts, but on legal technique and technical defenses. He said, I personally don't think they have much in a way of facts. They don't really, yes, they do, but they don't really have to because they have laws on their side. They have HIPAA laws on their side. DCF is the one that made the determination to remove Maya from their care. And they're allowed to see. This is sticky. John Hopkins previously told Fox News Digital in a statement that the hospital's priority is always the safety and privacy of its patients and their families. Therefore, we follow federal privacy laws that limit the amount of information we can release regarding any particular case. Our first responsibility is always to the child brought to us for care, and we are legally obligated to notify DCF when we detect signs of possible abuse or neglect. And that is true, because if they didn't, and something happened to a child because they didn't, dear Lord, and I know they do it, and they have every right to do it. Been there, done that. In fact, that's why I've got the custody I have now, that I'm being blessed enough with being able to adopt. 220 mil. Yeah, that's a lot of money. The hospital said it is DCF that investigates the situation and makes the ultimate decision about what course of action is in the best interest of the child. And see, that's another big hurdle I have, because being a foster mom, working in the system, I know how it works. And that lawyer, that's so true. Because I knew for a fact that there was complaints made and filed by the pediatrician, by a dentist, and because of them moving around the way they did, the actual finally the actual removal, which was long overdue, wasn't done till the ER because they couldn't get out there. But so that is true. And DCF they don't care what you say, because they had complaints on file from the pediatrician, from the dentist, the dental clinic. And so they don't always, just because they're there, DCF is the one that makes that decision, not that hospital and not that doctor. At the end of the day, DCF will do what they want to do regardless of who's involved or who called. Hi, Jima. A motion to obtain immunity from the hospital states that Beta Kowalski once said Maya was in so much pain that she wants to go to heaven. Another time, Beta allegedly said she may as well consult hospice so she can finally get enough medication and just let her die because she doesn't deserve to live this way, the motion states. Wow. The mom said that. Huh. I want to read that again. Beata, the mom, allegedly said she may as well consult hospice so she can finally get enough medication and just let her die because she doesn't deserve to live this way. That's going to be a hurdle to get over, too. Doctors who consulted with Beata and Maya prior to her time at Johns Hopkins also accused Beata of medical abuse. And like I said, I did see that many times going through listening to the trial and stuff that's going on. There has been suspicion of Munchausen. Hey, T. Marie, by the mom, by other medical professionals. And one of the big red flags is the constant going to doctor after doctor after doctor shopping to get the and they say that they do that to the under Munchausen proxy. You keep bouncing from doctor to doctor because they're not buying it, or you're not getting what you want out of them because they're not buying your story. So then you want to go to the next doctor and find one that will. I'm not saying that's what happened here. I'm just saying that's what it is. In 2015, Dr. Mendez wrote that Maya's illness was all being driven by the mother. Also in 2015, doctors at Lurie Children's Hospital in Chicago flagged abusive behavior from Beata, the mother. So it's not just one doctor or one nurse, it's multiple doctors in different locations saying the same thing. So then here she takes her to Johns Hopkins ER because she's having a really bad flare up and demanding ketamine treatments when ketamine, not, 5 years ago wasn't that big. It's a lot bigger now, but still not so widely where they would just willingly hook a 9-year-old up to ketamine, Well, thank you, T. Marie. Appreciate you. Nearly 5 years after the Kowalski civil suit was filed, and 7 years since Maya was initially admitted to Johns Hopkins, both sides will get to speak their piece in court. So it's been 7 years, and it took 5 years just to file it and get it going because it takes forever. The medical experts that all got to go through everything, and lawyers also shop around for medical experts because you want one that's always going to be more in your corner or make it sound more your way. And you'll find them. You'll have one expert say one thing and another expert say another thing. It's listening to what the expert says when he's cross-examined and put on it can make a difference in if you believe that expert or not, because if you got the money. I'm also very cognizant of what a lot of families have gone through, Anderson said, of other child medical abuse cases similar to Maya's. The horror stories I've heard over the last 4 years, they're so heartbreaking. This article previously stated that an investigation found Beata filled out fraudulent prescriptions for her doctor, but the Kowalski's legal counsel said the medicine was doctor prescribed, and Johns Hopkins has withdrawn the allegation. Okay, I want to go up here. There's another article I want to read. Or I think it's a video. This is going to take us to the video. And then I'll show you a couple clips from YouTube. Okay, let me see if this is. I don't want to read everything I just read. There's so many of these, and well, all they did is. Okay, that's the same one. All right, I'm going to go to YouTube and start showing you some. There's a video I want to show you. Well, wait, I might have another one on my messenger. Wait a minute. Let me see. I do have lots. And this is her on. Okay, this is the interview she's given after her mother unalived herself. And this was on. This is People magazine. And this article was October 10th, 2023. Well, what do you guys think about so far what I told you? Do you think, oh, no. Do you think that the hospital is responsible or negligent in the mom's unalivement because of what's transpired? But they made some valid points. I mean, DCF is the one who makes that decision. The doctors in the hospital they have no choice but to report suspected. They didn't say it was. They said suspected. They have to do that. I just don't know if they can solely prove 100% that that's why the mom unalived herself. Because it should have been 80 days since Maya was put into protective custody by DCF. You do? That's why I'm asking, T. Marie. I'm asking for people's opinions. I know what the legal side of it is. I know what's mandatory and what they have to do because of working in the medical field and also being a foster. So I see that side of it, the DCF side of it too, but then I've also seen some of the parent side of it. But that's what I was asking. Do you think it was but see, the hospital didn't have the final determination. DCF did. And I can vouch for working with DCF in the foster care system. It really don't matter. They're going to do what they want to do. There's been complaints where doctors have clearly stated there were signs of abuse and the kids were not removed. So it doesn't matter that there was a hospital or a doctor making that complaint. It's still, at the end of the day, DCF has to meet their criteria. Did they go too far? Was it an overzealous case manager? I mean, what happened was awful to this little girl. I mean, there's just no way around that. And to have to lose your mom in that way, that's heartbreaking. At a time when she needed her mother. But why do the unalivement when, from all accounts, it looked like you were going to get her, that was all going to change? I mean, because they really couldn't prove anything, and the girl The medical records, I didn't delve too much into if she's improved at the once, they did all this. But from what I'm hearing in testimony, yeah, there's a lot of hurdles for both sides here because it's going to tug the heartstrings. Because I was watching when they played the 911 call about the mom. That's sad. That is so sad. The letter from the mom, and then Maya's testimony, it will rip your heart out. They relied on what the hospital and docs said. Well, not necessarily though, because I know of a case where the pediatrician did report his suspicions. The children were not removed. The one child ended up injured. There was multiple reports actually. So it doesn't. That's not always the case. It really, at the end of the day, DCF's going to do what DCF wants to do. And at the big in that article that I just read, it said that the courts had found that they were not liable because they have to report any suspected abuse. They have to. And there were hospital employees who did not treat Maya well. Oh, okay. And treated her like she didn't have. And see, that's another thing. That's CRPS. A lot of doctors, and I know it's only been 7 years, but things change very rapidly in medical. Um, to this day, there's a lot of doctors that think that it's all um, mental health. There's still a lot of doctors that don't think it's an actual disorder that, other than mental health. But the extreme pain this child was in, I don't know, man. She was in a lot of pain. And she had been on so much medication for such a young child. But if that's what it took and it got her some type of life, what do you do? She didn't. Thank you, T. Marie. She did not. No one cared to listen to the child, of course. And that's who they should have listened to. Because no one knew what her pain was or felt like. Only she did. You're right. No, I don't think she was being over medicated. I don't. That was the mom's statement that the mom made herself that I read. That was from the mom saying that if she got her into hospice, then she could just give her, I read the statement. That was in frustration, I'm sure, because that had to her mom being an RN and feeling like she couldn't help her daughter, even though she was going to doctor after doctor after doctor. That has to tear you down and be beyond frustrating. So I don't hold a statement like that against the mom being so frustrated. However, lawyers will, and they will use that in court. And the trial's still going to be probably be going on for several weeks yet. T. Marie, do you know if they did replace that juror? I seen it on Uncivil Laws yesterday. Yeah, it was horrible what was done. The little girl must have been. I just couldn't even imagine being that young and being so scared. You're there. You're very sick. You're not getting any help, the help that you need, and then your mom can't come and see you. Your mom and your dad. That had to be terrifying for her. What is worse than a nurse who works her life to help people being accused of trying to harm her daughter, which would destroy her career and lose her child? I can understand the unaliving. Yeah, that's at this point. I don't think she was working anymore. I'm not sure, but you're right. It would. until it got straightened out. And they were only 80 days in which, in all honesty, with a DCM case, that's nothing. That's like a drop in the bucket. I believe they would have gotten her back. I believe that would have been, they would have, re, re, custody would have been returned. If, if not to the mom, at least to the father, because the father had nothing to do with it, they said. He wasn't being accused. It was the mom. So I think they would have. No, it's not. Oh, they haven't decided about the juror yet? I just feel for her being so young and having to go through all of this. I know what my kids were like. I mean, she was barely 4, he was 19 months old. Um, just one day they were with mama, and the next day, mommy took me to this place, and then I never seen her. It even though he was a baby, and but she was almost 4, and then happened to do these virtual visits because of the virus, and having to do even in person visits. It was so hard on the kids. It was so hard on them. Yeah, I feel for her brother finding her. Yeah, that was. I cried. I cried with that, and I probably shouldn't have got so emotional, but it that broke down. Like I said, it'll rip your heart out. But is the hospital solely responsible for that? I don't know. That's a lot of money. There is a lot of testimony for the jury to have to weed through. A lot. But this story, like I said, this was from October 10th. And daughter tearfully recounts last time she saw mom alive before her unalivement amid child abuse accusations. And from what I have just got from what I've been watching so far, is there had been some mental health things with the mom. Uh, I just I've talked to psychiatrists and doctors, and took it in school, um, and dealt with it in the medical field and with my family. Um, Not one. You can't. I don't know how to say this. I don't want to say it where it don't come out right. Okay, it's a decision that you make. No one makes that decision for you. Is the best way I think I can say it. And it's sad. It's totally sad. It's just, I wish there was a way we could reverse time and go back and let this little girl, let them figure out when she was 9 and 10 what was wrong so she didn't have to live like that. And none of this would have happened. But I don't have a magic wand. Okay, in October 2016, Maya Kowalski's mother came to visit her in the hospital in St. Petersburg, Florida, when the then 10-year-old girl was suffering from a rare neurological condition that left her in debilitating pain. I remember my mom had to leave at a certain point, and it was the last time I talked to her. Maya, now 17, recounted on the stand Monday in Sarasota Circuit Court in Sarasota, Florida. And I'm going to play that. She said, "I love you and I'll see you tomorrow." Breaking down in tears, Maya said, "I never saw her again." Wow. Maya never saw her mother, Beata Kowalski, again. After staff members at the Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital in St. Petersburg, Florida, notified Child Protective Services that Beata was insisting that Maya's chronic pain be treated with ketamine, and she was. She was insisting that, but because there for a little bit, it was actually helping her, but it had quit helping her. But it's the only thing that was giving her any kind of relief at the time. And a judge ordered her to be held at the hospital, ordered Maya to be held. Hospital officials said they believe Beata was making her daughter sick on purpose and then insisting on an aggressive treatment because she had Munchausen syndrome by proxy, a mental disorder in which a caregiver fakes or causes symptoms to make a child appear to be sick. As a result, a judge ordered Maya to be held in state protective custody away from her mother for 87 days while the allegations were investigated. That's what I mean. Distraught over the accusations that she was abusing her daughter and not being able to see her daughter, on January 7th of 2017, Beata unalived herself. Okay. Now, it was 87 days is nothing when it comes to DCF. The system is slow, slow, slow. Um, and they were still investigating it. I wish things could have been different because I do believe they would have gotten her custody of her back. I really do believe that. She was lying about holding and caressing Maya. Maya recalled that behavior. Okay. Hey, Laugh. That DCF related Kathy Beatty woman. I just can't stand her. Yeah, I wasn't impressed with her at all, let me tell you. Due to see them again for 4 year old Laugh. Yeah, T. Marie, her testimony broke my heart. I just wanted to jump through the screen and hug this little girl. She stopped Maya from speaking freely to her mom on the phone. She monitored the calls in person, telling Maya what she could and could not say. You have a good one too, T. I'll be live again later to do some drama. I didn't want to do the drama in with this because I did this for a friend. But let's finish the story. In court, Maya testified that she woke up around 2 a.m. the following morning, not yet aware of her mother's passing. I was crying. I miss my mom. I love my mom, Maya recounted. She was shocked when she later learned that her mom passed away around that time. I had this feeling, she testified. I felt it. Maybe. Maya's family is suing the Johns Hopkins Children's Hospital for $220 million for allegedly accusing her mother of Munchausen by proxy, which they say led to her unalivement. Maya's father, Jack Kowalski, filed a $220 million lawsuit, which we know in 2018, alleging that the hospital separated Beta from Maya, who was taken into state custody for 3 months in 2016 when she was 10 years old. Yeah, she would have, I really think they'd have regained custody. It's just sad. They are alleging medical malpractice, false imprisonment, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. The mother wasn't the patient. And that's a hurdle they're going to have to get over. The ordeal was chronicled in the haunting Netflix documentary Take Care of Maya, which was the subject of a People cover story in June. Yeah, a lot of people didn't like that documentary. The family's ordeal began in 2015 when Maya was diagnosed with complex regional pain syndrome, a rare neurological condition that causes excruciating pain in response to the slightest touch. People previously reported she was administered a ketamine treatment by a Tampa doctor who specializes in CRPS. So what I want to know is if they took her into the emergency room and that was in St. Pete, why didn't they take her where this doctor had privileges and could be called in to treat her? Because I have a pump. The dad, I think, is the one that had the brother. I'm that's what I'm trying to find out about the other kids. Um, and let me tell you something. I've had my pump for almost 25 years. I'm a medical. I knew the hospitals where I was. Didn't here, but I did where I was. If I went into the emergency room, which was a rarity because I don't do the hospital thing, usually if I went, it was either by ambulance or damn near because I just don't, yeah, don't like hospital emergency rooms. Um, the first thing they would look at me like, oh, you have a pump, you're an addict. And that's the kind of treatment you would get. You would be treated like that. So I know how hospital emergency staff can be, being that I worked in that environment and also was a patient many times. Uh, yeah, and I know how it can go because she wasn't. It was her daughter that she was doing the medical, seeking the medical treatments and seeking doctor after doctor, not the son. And it's like that with Munchausen. There can be multiple kids in the family, but the parental figure will only concentrate on one. And sometimes it's even more than one, but usually it's just one. I just had to spend 6 hours in a darn ER with mom Tuesday night. She fell again. Oh my gosh. I hope she's okay. Yeah. Hey Angel. Them ERs, I'll tell you what, it's insane the waiting time. Insane. In 2016, Maya was checked in. Now, mind you, she had been on this treatment for a little while, for a few months. And like I stated before, um, in the beginning, it did relieve some of her pain, but then it wasn't anymore after a couple months. It might have been, dosage thing. I don't know, but she wasn't getting any more relief and help from it, and hence that's why she ended up in the ER. Maya was checked into the children's hospital for debilitating stomach pain. Hospital staff reported Beata, a registered nurse, to DCF after she repeatedly requested Maya be treated with ketamine, saying the drug had been effective for Maya in the past. Well, they could have looked at her medical records for that. During her testimony, Maya told the court she never gave me IV ketamine at home, which she didn't. Well, but then again, come on, we've seen how far Munchausen by proxy can go. Um, Example, Gypsy Blanchard. And for years didn't tell anybody the true secrets, even after, and that's not the only case, but so Maya also recounted how her condition worsened in the hospital, especially when she alleged staff members and medical personnel didn't believe how much she was suffering. My condition went downhill in the hospital, she testified. I told them I told them constantly about my pain. They weren't listening, so I stopped telling them only when they asked. Maya said her pain is still so debilitating from the CRPS that there are days I stay in bed for days on end, and that she currently has multiple lesions on her right leg. When she left the hospital, she said she was scared to see another doctor again. Mentally kidnapped in the hospital. During her emotional testimony, Maya, who told people in an exclusive June interview that she was medically kidnapped, testified about the strict measures the staff took while she was in state custody. But you don't understand, they have to. I'm not saying they were right or wrong. I'm saying that there's protocol they have to follow. I think you were mishandled. I really do. They wouldn't allow Maya to speak Polish to her mom on the phone. Huh? They wouldn't allow her mom to speak Polish to her because they didn't have an interpreter. That's why. Mm, okay. Mm. I was told I had to speak English so they could understand. Raised as Catholic, Maya said she wasn't allowed to have sacraments that a priest brought her, including Holy Communion. All Catholic. I thought all Catholics took communion. God, we did. Catechism, the works. They believe my mom was putting ketamine in the wafers and the holy water, she testified. So your mother was doing it, but a priest wasn't. You couldn't take it from a priest. Okay. Eventually, she was given the rosary and prayer book, but they didn't let her pray with her mother on the phone. Huh. That's ridiculous. They thought my mom was controlling me through religion. Oh. They never directly told me what was going on. I was stripped from my family. Wow. One of the most emotional moments of the day's testimony came when Maya recounted how she was given $20 to spend when she turned 11 in the hospital. She bought her brother Kyle a Nerf gun, her dad his favorite mints, and a necklace for her mom that said, I love you to the moon and back. She later learned that the mother cherished the necklace and was wearing it when she unalived herself. Wow. I'm wearing it right now, Maya testified, breaking down in sobs. Many jurors were crying when Maya mentioned the necklace, and people in the gallery were visibly upset. I'm sure. And see, that's going to pull the jury's strings. So now John Hopkins lawyers are going to have to come out fighting um, because her strings are rough with the jury with the civil case. According to the hospital's attorneys, the hospital was concerned about the high doses of ketamine Vieta was asking staff members to give her daughter, many times the limit approved by the FDA. Ooh. So she was asking for very high doses above what's already been approved. Over a 9-month period, according to the hospital's attorneys, Maya had allegedly received 55 doses of ketamine, which has been approved by the FDA to use mainly as anesthesia and a sedative, but has been used off-label also, according to the National Institutes of Health. In Maya's case, it was used to alleviate her pain. Doctors at the hospital were hesitant to give her such a high dose of the drug, 1,500 milligrams, especially since she was on 21 other medications. Howard Hunter, the lead attorney for the hospital, said in court in September, she was on 21 other medications. And that is a high dose of ketamine. They had a child being given levels of medication they had never heard of before, that the literature did not support, Hunter said in court. Hunter told the court that the hospital acted out of reasonable caution while figuring out how to treat Maya. On Wednesday, Ethan Shapiro, another attorney for the hospital, pointed out that Maya had undergone a ketamine coma treatment in Mexico that carried a 50% risk of death. What? A ketamine coma treatment in Mexico that carried a 50% risk of death. Wow. Jack Kowalski, when asked on the stand if he was aware of the risk, responded by saying, there is a risk in every procedure. Oh, not 50%. Shapiro replied, I understand that, Mr. Kowalski, but respectfully, there's a risk, and then there's a risk that's a coin flip in which your daughter could pass. Did you know it was 50%? Jack Kowalski responded, they stated it was 50%, but they stated no one ever died from that procedure. But if they're telling you it's 50%, mm, I don't know. All right, I'm done reading. I got to dry mouth. We're going to watch the videos now. Let me know the videos. Let me take a minute to look at chat. Okay, I saved it. I just got to go back to it. I saved so many of them. Jeez. There's so many to show. But there's a reporter that did a really good uh, quick breakdown of the whole thing, too. That's from, I believe it's Long Crime. Okay, no. Okay, yeah, I got a lot of Maya videos. Okay, that's Kathy Beatty, the deposition of the social worker. Do you see it? I know. I got the opening statements. Okay, this is a doctor um, that's going to talk about the CR diagnosed with. Um, I'm not going to play this whole interview either. Hi, wishful thinking. Wait a minute. Let me take a break a minute and look at chat. I want to see what Gma. Yeah, she was not allowed to be Maya. She was allowed to have communion. She wasn't allowed. No, she was allowed. She just didn't want it from a priest. She said that she couldn't get it from a priest being Catholic, but I was born and raised Catholic, so was my husband, and we got our communion from priest. Um, she wanted it from her mother, but they wouldn't allow because of the suspicions. They are not going to allow the mother to give her anything. Um, just like a few years back, there was the mother that um went to the prison because they said she was giving her baby ex- crazy amounts of salt, which ended up taking his life. Um, and she was not to bring anything into the hospital under, but she ended up. You could she did, but that's part of it. They have to protect her, so they can't let the mom bring anything in. As far as like that DCF caseworker going overboard, I don't know. I depended on what the court order was, what the judge made in put in the court order, because they're because of how the bios have acted. There has to be on the video calls. There had to be a caseworker listening into all the video calls because of the inappropriateness and because of the things they would say to the children about the cases if they wouldn't listen to the judge. So when that didn't even matter and they would argue with that person, and then the physical face to face visits started and they were a train wreck and they had to be supervised as well. The judge then put it that the therapist along with the CPS worker, had to both be there for the visit and redirect the parents, which they redirected 100 million times. So that could be common. Yeah. Mm, it's not. It's rare, but unfortunately, I've seen it. Did they jump to that conclusion quickly? They might have. They. Yeah. I think they should have at least reached out to that doctor, considering. But I know ERs don't do that. In a perfect world, they could have, got all her medical records. But why didn't they take her to the hospitals they knew her doctor had privileges at, so he could have treated her, instead of taking her to an ER where they know nothing about her, or and most ER doctors wouldn't have known about this either. Um, there's questions. But they did say that they did doctors. It's another word for doctor shop. There was multiple other physicians involved. She was on 21 medications plus ketamine. There I am clicking that later. Let me put it away. I don't know. I just wish, because it wouldn't have been long, they would have gotten custody back. Because I don't. But then again, there's still more evidence coming out. They could have, at least maybe the father could have gotten custody back. But 87 days with a DCF case is nothing, unfortunately. But I think the dad could have gotten custody if nothing else. I don't know. It's just so sad. But this doctor treats this CRPS. Beautiful girl. Wow. Oh, you're kidding. I didn't share screen. Unbelievable. Sorry. I don't believe I did that. Oh, here I thought I was doing good. Didn't forget anything today. You guys could hear it, right? Do you need me to back it up? Okay, he's getting ready to just tell you what made him think she had it.
Obviously, the first one is that the patient has severe excruciating pain and there is no other explanation to it. Nothing else explains it. That's the number one. Number two, the rest are kind of optional, and you have to pick and choose which ones you see. So one of them is there a temperature difference? So if I have CRPS in the left leg, and so the temperature in my left leg might be hotter or colder as compared to the right leg. The next thing is you look at color change. Oftentimes, the affected side is either dark red in color, even blue in color, as compared to the right side. You look for swelling. In the initial phases, swelling is pretty obvious. Later on, you don't see it as much. So you look for swelling in these patients. You look for skin changes. The skin may sometimes become thin and shiny, or they may develop small, tiny lesions, almost like blisters that are painful. They can develop that. They even develop hair changes. Some patients actually grow more hair, and some patients have less hair. It can be in the same side or on the opposite side. You can see nail changes. Their nails start to kind of break off. They get brittle nails.
And what about asymmetry in muscle groups from right to left? Is that an indication?
I was getting to that. So the last one is muscle symptoms. So do they have what's called dystonia? Dystonia is a terrible condition. So I'm going to show you. If I had dystonia in my left hand, it would be like a tight muscle, like the arm is taking a life of its own and it's cramping up. Or they may have tremor. So they may not have tremor when you don't do anything, but if you say touch them and then they start to have a tremor, they may have muscle weakness. They have muscle atrophy. The muscle starts to shrink. So there are many muscle symptoms that these patients can have.
I want to.
Can you hear and see it now?
And I think.
Can you hear and see it now?
I wanted you to explain what really happens in CRPS, the central. I want you to explain what we know so far about CRPS, how it starts. Yes.
I just have one other clarification on CRPS. When I say that these patients have pain, we're talking about the world's worst pain. I mean,
wait, can you guys see and hear it now? Yeah, what's cooked up between those egotistical social workers and experts and whatnot, that these people were not to be treated the same. Yeah, they're not. The hospitals, along with DCF, conspired to do this. They did this to others, and others came forward to tell their story. I'd like to hear some of them. I mean, it does happen. You watched the documentary? Yeah, I haven't yet. This is sad. It's just a whole sad story, and I don't know, honestly, what the outcome's going to be. I feel bad for the jury because there's so much to weed through and listen to. But the worst whole part of it is she lost her mom. We're only going to listen to a couple more minutes of this, and I want to get into the testimony. This is just him saying what the CRPS was, what the side effects.
This pain is worse than amputation pain. This pain is worse than childbirth pain. The gentleman on the jury won't understand that, I'm sure. This pain is so bad, so bad.
He's always trying to be clever.
The worst part about this pain is that, if I stub my toe, it looks like the world is going to come to an end. Okay. But I know that this is going to go away in a few minutes. But CRPS pain does not go away. It's there 24 hours, 7 days of the week, and it just stays on and on and on. And the worst part is that there's no known treatment to this. We try all sorts of things. Some work, some don't work. But this is this is often known as a suicide condition, because these patients, the pain is so bad, they can't sleep, they can't eat, they can't work. Their families don't believe them, because you don't think like somebody. The general impression is, oh, you have pain, take a Tylenol and it'll get better. This is not Tylenol pain. This is your hand in a hot stove. That's exactly what they described as. In fact, patients describe it as if their hand is inside a hot fire stove, and and they can't take it out. That's the thing. So
Unfortunately, I can honestly, this is why this case is so hard for me, because I did everything. I was 12, 13 when they finally diagnosed me with what was causing my constant headaches and face tick. I did everything the doctors wanted me to do. Of course, oh, well, it's mental health. It had nothing to do with that. At the end, it took years. I mean, I was in my 30s before I was actually finally diagnosed, after being on every medication they threw at me, having multiple surgeries, doing this, doing that. And then finally they sent me to I thought was the right neurosurgeon, the right expert that actually patented the procedure that was done on me. But at last, what ended up was to be a week, ended up 6 months, 9 operations later. And I ended up worse, far worse than I was. I was actually living in and out of the hospitals on PCA because there was just no controlling the pain or the facial tick. It was just, I missed a lot. But so I get the whole thing about the pain stuff, and I get how you're looked at and how you're treated. And unfortunately, I'm 60 and it's the same thing. Not a lot in that area has changed. You're still looked at the same. Actually, probably worse now because of the fentanyl epidemic and the heroin epidemic, It's, yeah. Hey, Stargazer's mom. So, but I also can get the medical side of it too. See, that's what's hard for me, because I've been on both sides. And unfortunately, you do see it all the time. That people come they want the pain meds. But not every case is like that. And that's why it's got to be patient by that patient, not by what the previous patient did. Unfortunately, it's not like that. You're grouped in, you're lumped in. If they don't understand a condition, if the ER doctor don't understand it, you're lumped in, especially with a condition like CRPS. It's crazy.
I just want to clarify that this is, when I say pain, it's not a small itty bitty pain in the joints.
And what is the McGill pain scale?
The McGill University in Canada decided to see, like, okay, where do pain conditions stand? So they interviewed a bunch of people, and they said, all right, where in this scale would you put your pain, like pain from labor or pain from amputation of a digit? And so they drew a scale, and that scale, CRPS was way above anybody else. It was way above amputation pain, cancer pain, or even labor pain.
With your permission, Your Honor, I'd like to publish.
Very familiar with the scale. Trust me.
Scale. Can you bring it up? The jury can see. Ta-da!
So
miracles of technology.
What I'm seeing is what the jury is seeing.
Yeah, the jury sees that.
Okay, so if you go from the bottom, you can see tension, headache, sprain, and so on. As you go up, then you see non-terminal cancer, chronic back pain, and as you keep going up, prepared childbirth is number 32. and then you keep going up, and then you come to amputation of a digit is 39, and then so forth. And then finally, CRPS, often it is originally known as RSD, is rated as 46. So on a scale of 50, 0 to 50, CRPS is 46. Nothing is higher than that. It's such a terrible pain.
Now, with this, can you tell us from your experience whether any of your patients have had, not parents, patients, but any of your patients have had difficulties going through a number of doctors before they're diagnosed?
Yes. So unfortunately,
And see, that's one of the things that both sides have an uphill battle in this case, because one side is saying, well, she had to go to all those doctors, to finally find someone that knew about the disorder and could treat the disorder, or to even diagnose her. And then you got the other side saying, well, she was hopping around from doctor to doctor, which is called doctor shopping. They both got a battle there to fight, because when you have a condition that a lot of doctors don't understand, not a lot is known about it, you do have to see multiple physicians. I mean, you do.
Doctors don't.
My daughter got unexplainably sick when she hit puberty, in and out of the hospital for 3 months. The psychologist talked to her to see if I was abusing her body. Wait a minute. If I was abusing her or doing something to her. There was 2 GI docs that came up with a hiatal hernia and slow gastric emptying. Treated that, and she got better. She almost died from losing so much weight. Her body wouldn't even accept water. Wow. So she's doing good now? Yeah, they don't want to, and when they don't know something, they just don't listen. And unfortunately, it's still like that. And that's not how a doctor's supposed to be.
Know about CRPS. They may have read about it and they must have blown it off as being an extremely rare condition. I don't need to bother with it. I'll probably never see it. But unfortunately, it is a very common condition. And they miss the diagnosis. They think
it's common for you because that's what you treat it, but it's not common for a lot of doctors. It's really not. I mean, especially 7 years ago. Maybe more know about it now because of this case. But yeah, it's not one that's on the ER doctor's mind, okay? Or in his Rolodex, or whatever you want to say.
it's an arthritic pain, or they think it's some sort of a muscle pain, and they get prescribed some of these itty bitty pain medicines. And
itty bitty,
it was not an official
oh my
study,
God.
but it was a very unofficial.
Let me tell you, there's a lot of pain patients right now that would, because of governments interfering with doctors being able to treat their patients because of a few bad. There's pain patients that would love that itty bitty pain med.
Official kind of an anecdotal
it is
article in a journal, and they said the average.
Hold on,
what's the legal basis?
You know what? I'm honestly surprised, though. I'm 60, so back when I was 12, 13, it's a long time ago. They're making faces at me at the door. Oh, I love you too. You're crazy. Anyway, my kids and husband are making faces at me at the patio door because, of course, we're poolside. Now I lost my train. I'm surprised they didn't try to pull something like that with my mom, even though it was so, many years ago. Because you want to talk about frustration with doctors? Okay, and we're talking, 57 years ago. Well, no, 47 years ago. Yeah. So medicine has come a long, long way in 47 years, but you're still treated the same as far as if you go to the ER or even with certain doctors until they can actually diagnose you. You're pretty much looked at the same way. It's sad, it really is. I have not had a pain-free day since I was 12, 13 years old. I don't know what it feels like to not hurt. I have a headache 24/7. pain scales became your best friend because you always had to chart your pain, you know. Um, and I would use a simpler one most of the time with the 1 to 10. If we do it on the 1 to 10, which is basically a shorter version of his scale, 10 being the absolute worst pain ever, 1 being, I have not been able to say I was less than a 6 since I was 12 years old. Most days it's an 8 or a 9. And doctors I still get looked at the same way. I've had 9 freaking brain operations. They've tried to fix what they thought they were fixing, but ended up causing more damage, and it was a nightmare. I ended up with an infection. It was just a nightmare. I got a strep stab from the dirty operating room utensils. It was just crazy. Coded a couple times, but they don't think they're responsible, and it's not going to change. They look at you like, well, it's just a headache. Well, I wish. It's a headache with the whole side of my face jumping up and down like I got crickets in it or grasshoppers. Yeah, come on.
Well, just tell us what, without going into the details of any study, just tell us what the latest finding is. What do you understand the latest?
Well, anyway, what
the
was
scan-
happening with mine is the nerve roots. There was actually vessels that entwined around the nerve roots, cutting what was supposed to be the blood supply off. It was a slow process, and now I just got a lot of damage that you can't fix. There's nerve damage, there's other damage you can't fix. So I'm even, but so I get what this little girl was living through because I was very young, and as a child, any kind of pain, but this kind of pain, where it took ketamine, high doses of ketamine, along with 20 other medications, and she still was just getting some relief. That's God. That's awful. I have a rare disorder where I was given hormone therapy and pills for sexual dysfunction until I was diagnosed with epileptic arousal disorder, which when I have seizures, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Did it help? Has it helped?
The knowledge of CRPSs as you're about to relate.
You mean how many patients develop CRPS?
Well, that'd be interesting.
Okay, so, well, essentially, patients go through a lot of patients.
All right, well, now you guys heard about what she has. All right, now let's get it because there's a lot with this case, and I don't think I'll get to it all today, but I'm going to try or get to more. But anyway, I want to. There's the 5 key moments of her testimony, but I want to. The opening statements. Oh, that's when her dad takes a stand. I'm looking for the one about the nurse testifies. That was something else. The take care Maya doctor. Oh, now this is a doctor. Now just wait. You're going to hear this. The doctor who testified is suspected Munchausen by proxy. Okay, what are they trying to say about him? Oh, okay. I don't want to. We already read his testimony or seen it. Okay, this is the chilling 911 call depicts Maya Kowalski's brother finding his mother. Wow. Okay, this is called Dissecting the Family of. They're dissecting the family's claims, and then I'm going to show you. I thought I had a highlighted reel of the opening arguments. Like I said, there's so much to show in this, and I can't show it all. So Or do you guys want to just go on to the mom, what happened with the mom? But this is dissecting the shocking claims
To
from the
Sarasota,
family.
Florida, for a civil case against Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital. The Kowalski family is suing the hospital for over $200 million in punitive and compensatory damages after they claim that the hospital staff wrongly reported child abuse. Maya Kowalski.
I'm in the process of being diagnosed with trigeminal neuralgia, but I have found gabapentin is helping. Yeah, I was diagnosed with trigeminal neuralgia, occipital neuralgia, and cluster headaches. And I did have the trigeminal and occipital neuralgia. I still do. But part of my problem was the blood vessels, the little tiny vessels that were actually supposed to help, were actually strangling the nerve roots. So when they went in and they put the Teflon sponges in, the little microscopic Teflon sponges, the one slipped out. It was a mess. And then I ended up with that strep staph infection. It was just a mess. The wet line retractor sprang out of place and cut my ear off. It was just a mess. Yeah. But I can't take gabapentin. I have bottles and bottles of it. I probably need to dispose of. I wish I could take it, but it doesn't. It does the exact opposite for me. They have had me on so much medication over the years. I did anything to try to make it go away. Whatever they threw at me, I went along with, just trying to get better. Okay, let's listen to this.
He was admitted to the hospital in 2016 upon experiencing a flare-up in her complex regional pain syndrome. In the past, the family used ketamine infusions to treat Maya's pain, but the hospital saw this high dosage request as a red flag. Now, during Maya's 3-month stay, she became custody of the state, and her mother, Beata, was no longer there and able to visit her.
Hey, I was saying her name right.
After 7 days of being physically separated from her daughter, Beata died by suicide. Now, plaintiff Jack
There
Kowalski, he filed a
goes the
suit
green.
against the hospital on behalf of his wife and his children. Now, when court was last in session, Maya's gifted program school teacher, Jackie Dietert, took the stand to testify on behalf of the plaintiffs. Now, Dietert visited Maya when Beata was not allowed to, and she continued to teach Maya to the best of her ability, both of which brought on certain hardships that she outlined in her direct examination. Let's take a listen.
And over the 3 months that Maya was there.
You know what, Stargazer Mom? The one side of my face. See, that's how they diagnosed my neuralgia. But I also, my whole side of my face swells and it ticks. It looks like there's a grasshopper in there jumping up and down and making it. And that's because of the blood supply to the nerve roots being cut off. They would have to give me high doses of steroids by IV, slowly infuse them, and then it would turn me diabetic. I would have to take insulin while I was taking them, and then I always ended up with an ulcer in a day because it was just such mega high doses. Hey, Sav. Good to see you, Sav.
Did you continue to provide updates to Beata, or did that become difficult?
Yeah, it became too difficult.
Can you explain a little bit to the jury?
Maya was just really desperate to see her. And I just think when I would talk about school and what we did, or if I took her to the craft room, or there was a fall festival one Saturday when I went up there. And I think I kind of knew Jack was seeing her. So Jack was able to give her the head because she was really sad. She'd cry. She was desperate when I would then call and talk about.
Which would you rather have as an investment? A
Commercial.
share of Apple.
Sorry about the ads, people.
Me taking Maya to the fall festival, it was too much, and she so desperately wanted to be the one to see Maya that I bet I probably called her for the first 6 weeks, but I think the last month it just became too hard for me to. And we would do little summaries. I would give Maya a little summary of what she was doing.
And that's a red flag. That's a red flag. It became too hard for her to call the mom because of what the mom was saying and how she was acting. That's a red flag. That's something that the hospital's attorneys are really going to pick up on.
For homework, each week and what we were working on, and I would like forward, I think, those to Beata, but yeah, that became too hard.
Too difficult to keep giving Beata updates.
Yes, because I was the one seeing her instead of her mom. So when Mrs. Shepler couldn't go, she went maybe 2 or 3 times, and then for some reason they weren't allowing her in there. I filled both of our positions. I would try to go twice a week.
Twice a week.
Mm-hmm.
And were you aware as to whether or not Maya was receiving any other instruction, 5th grade teacher or anything like that?
So I don't know how long she'd been here at the time. She'd been there a month.
She'd been here 2 weeks or so at this point.
At this point, so it was at the beginning of October. So the few times that I'd gone at to that point, and at that point I think Mrs. Shepler had gone once or twice, we couldn't figure out if she had any kind of teacher allocated to her from the hospital or that county. And so I couldn't get anybody to give me that information. So the social worker that would escort me couldn't provide me any information on whether Maya was getting additional work to do. And so I had talked to the IT guy, Dave Chamberlain, Calamari, and he had worked out me bringing a computer up there and that we would Skype just like we had at school. And then when I got there with that computer, they said I couldn't leave it with her. So it was a laptop for her to be able to possibly Skype and do schoolwork with us. And then I had to take it home. I would bring my computer for us to do work with, but I couldn't leave her a laptop to Skype. And nobody ever, all that time they were there, nobody could ever tell me if there was ever anybody helping her.
And what?
So I have Marie Pereira still with me and Miguel Custodio. And I'm going to ask you, Marie, first, when you listen to the teacher, does it give you any insight as to, the state of mind of Beata, the mother, or, any insight as to what was actually going on at the hospital while she was trying to teach Maya?
I think this testimony is very impactful because to me, it brings home the feeling that no one was really looking out for this child. She didn't have a fixed educator to come in to continue her education. No one knew what was going on. It seemed like this child was just in the wind, which made it even more painful for her mother to not get updates, to not be involved, not to be allowed to see her. First thing that comes to my mind, and I'm not a family law specialist, but where is the law guardian here? This child is supposed to be appointed a neutral party to look after her and report to the court. Who's making these decisions? And why is this child being disregarded like this?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I'm thinking about, Miguel, is the fact that Beata wasn't allowed to see Maya. And I understand that there is some thought that perhaps that it's going to be detrimental to Maya, but what are your thoughts on the mother not being able to see her daughter during this period?
Yeah, it just goes to show, I think, how the hospital was very, it almost seems like they had a personal vendetta against Beata. It just seemed that they were going out of their way to make it impossible for her to, have any contact. I mean, it just seems that there's no justification as to why there wouldn't be some kind of arrangement like supervised visitation if there's a concern of abuse or if there's a concern of Beata maybe encouraging this condition as the hospital, is alleging. But why wouldn't you have a supervised visitation, right? And so it really starts, this testimony is really starting to make the hospital look like the bad guy here.
Yeah, it's interesting. You have to wonder what goes into that overall decision. Well, on cross-examination, the hospital highlighted the learning category that Maya was in during her stay at the hospital and why it was so restricted. Let's listen to what they had to say.
This is the highest level of disability in the school district. Is that right?
Yes.
Meaning there's different levels of independence from a student being allowed to come into the class. And this one is so restrictive that the child's going to be determined that they're not leaving the house. Is that correct? Okay. And we saw your signature earlier. I don't need to show it, but you participated in this consultation and decision?
Yes.
Okay. So let me ask you next about joint exhibit, which is in evidence 1073/76. Actually, let's do 75 first, please. The decision to homebound a student is based on a medical referral. Is that correct?
Yes, the homebound is.
Okay. If you'll scroll a little lower, please. Some of the questions on this, for example, number 7, could the student attend school with accommodation? And thank you. It's blurry, but it says, could the student attend school with accommodations? Example, second set of books at home or use of a wheelchair On Maya's form, that was checked no by her doctor. Is that right?
Yes, that's what this form says.
And then
I'm going to tell you the easiest way to make money at home, and you
below asks if there could be an accommodation that says, could the student attend school regularly and receive homebound or hospitalization services on an intermittent basis? And that's also checked no.
I see that, yes.
Okay. And then the next question is the one I wanted to ask you about. Is the student, in this case Maya, confined to a home or hospital full-time, homebound or hospitalized? Are those services recommended? And that's what Maya was recommended for, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, so at least as of August 2016, before Maya went to All Children's, the school district, on a form that you helped complete and sign, were making the representation that Maya was going to be in the most restrictive learning element for this year, meaning she was too sick to even leave the home. True?
Objection. Legal basis, Ms. Stacey Evans, overruled.
I'm sorry, can you ask that?
Sure. According to the classifications for the Sarasota County classifications for homebound, based on the forms that you participated in and based on the medical review, as of August 2016, the school board determined, based on the medical information, that Maya was unable to leave the home at all to come to school and participate. Is that true?
Yes, that's what this form says.
All right, Marie, this is going straight to you because we
Wow.
were talking about it a little bit during the break. I mean, do you think that this was a good cross-examination by the hospital? And were they able to establish at least a little bit why education wasn't at the forefront for Maya because of her disability?
I think this was an excellent cross-examination because
Mhm.
she is not the type of witness that you can't.
See, the state, or I mean, not the state, the hospital's attorneys aren't going to back down.
That you have to handle with kid gloves like that child witness, her brother. She's a teacher. She had a hand in filling out the form that categorized Maya as homebound, hospital bound, and this had nothing to do with the hospital. So you're here on the stand saying that it was the hospital's fault, all of this alienation, isolation, but you had a hand in filling out the form.
That was my point earlier when I said there's guidelines, there's things that have to be followed, but this was done before she ever went to that hospital. How can you sit there and say the hospital was neglecting her when this was done before she was in their care?
So extracting that testimony from her really watered down all that empathy she garnered on direct.
That's a great point. And Miguel, do you agree with that? I mean, I definitely think that the questioning that the hospital did, the attorneys for the hospital, was excellent, pointing out not only was it not the hospital who made this determination, but the witness herself was signing this particular form.
Absolutely. And I find it a little disingenuous by the teacher, the witness, how she is answering, yes, that's what the form
Yeah, the teacher does it. That's going to end up hurting them.
says. Well, you had a hand in that. Your writing is on that, right? So I thought it was a really good cross-examination. Obviously, the goal of cross is to poke holes into the testimony that has been garnered in direct, and I thought this was a good demonstration of that.
Yeah, I thought it was excellent cross-examination. Well, we're going to take a quick break. Come back with us because we're going to tell you more about the Gareth Pursehouse case. Stay tuned.
Okay. Now I'm going to show you what happened with the mom. And I just don't see there's a heated exchange takes place. This is from Court TV. Wait, here's speaks on letter to family. This is about the letter. To the family. And then I'm going to show you a little bit of her. I'm going to have to do this in more than one part because there's just too much to show. And we haven't even gotten to anything about her testimony and the 911 call with the mom. Okay. Yeah, she's going to hurt the case.
It's good practice. State your name for the record.
Hi, Kowalski,
And where do you live?
Venice, Florida.
And are you one of the plaintiffs in this action?
Yes.
And was there a period of time between October 7th, 2016 and January 14th, 2017 when you were kept at Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital?
Yes.
During the course of that, did you from time to time write letters to your mother, your father, or your brother?
Yes.
Let me show you, if I may approach, Your Honor. What's been marked for identification, trial exhibit 2375. And ask you to identify whether you are the author of that.
Yes, I wrote the note.
And that is your handwriting?
Yes.
And so, although I don't see that it's dated, is it in any place?
It's not.
But do you recall that whether this was written during the course of your stay at Johns Hopkins?
It was written. When I
And
was
can you see
there.
that from what is written there, the descriptions?
Yes.
And in writing this, were you expressing
What was going on?
physical condition?
Are you under this object to bleeding?
It's a minor.
No, I'm going to sustain the objection.
Okay. What was the purpose involving, what if any involvement does the document reflect as to your mental, emotional, or physical condition, if you can look through it there?
Well, at the time, I desperately missed my family. I wasn't allowed to really have any contact with them. So in this document, I'm expressing how much I miss them. I was extremely depressed. And in the little, as far as physical wise, how I was doing, if you look, there's a heart. And in the heart is pictured my mom on the very far right, and my brother, me in the wheelchair, and then on the very far left would be my dad. So it's showing that I'm still sick.
Were you attempting at this point to address your health while in there?
Yes, but I couldn't explicitly state it.
Because what?
I couldn't explicitly state it because they wouldn't have sent the document.
Was that your intent, however?
Yes.
And did you state in there the status of your pain? At the top.
Sorry about that, guys. Stargazer's mom, I agree. The teacher's testimony and until she was up for cross made it seem like the hospital was withholding her education and hiding the girl. You're right. And then once the document that the teacher herself signed that was done months prior, I didn't do the teacher's testimony any justice.
It's mine. See that up there?
By that I mean it didn't help their case.
Or the judge got that shut down. I gave away all my copies.
You can put it back on the screen.
When you say not doing the best, but I'm hanging in there, what were you addressing?
I was trying to express that physically I wasn't doing very well. I was in a lot of pain with my CRPS. On top of that, I wasn't doing well mentally because, I was a kid and I was taken away from my family, so you can only imagine.
During this period of time was Dr. John Wassenauer your pediatrician?
Yes.
And through the course of your stay there, did it come to your attention that your parents from time to time would keep him updated?
I figured, I didn't know that entirely, but I could assume.
And did you trust your parents at that time, your mother or your father, to provide information to your pediatrician about your status during the period of time when you could not directly communicate?
Yes.
Your witness.
Mr. Anderson, do you want to go quick?
I'm sorry.
Hey, good morning, Mike.
Good morning.
And see, that's another thing too. People look at you, and if you don't have any debilitating features, or you know what I mean, if you don't look sick, as they say, they don't believe that you're sick. The hospital is saying, because they've also had courts rule in their favor, that they weren't neglectful. They're saying they're not responsible for the mom's unalivement. And that they didn't. There was no medical malpractice here, and they did what they are required to do. And smaller courts ruled in their favor with some things, which I read in the beginning. I mean, it's a big $220 million is a lot. And my thinking is, and I could be wrong because I'm not a lawyer, but I've been there, done that. The lawyers went for so much is probably to spark a settlement, thinking they would get, they're going to get, they ask for the moon, then they'll get reality. But apparently that's not what happened in this case. I don't think at this point John Hopkins wants to do the quick settlement, or they would have. Because this is such a big case now. I don't know. That's a lot of money. That's an uphill battle. Maybe a little bit more realistically, because when you're on that jury and you're hearing all this stuff and they keep saying $220 million, it makes you think. Even, I'm just saying, it just makes you think. But you can't blame the hospital for hiding her about her education when that teacher clearly is the one who signed off on that form. But yeah, there's just some issues that are going to be uphill battles for both sides. And unfortunately, the little girl is the one stuck in the middle of us all. She's the one hurting. She's the one who lost her mama. It's so sad.
Just a couple quick questions. Do you know the date that this was sent?
I do not, I'm sorry.
Okay. And if I understand what you were telling the court, the purpose of this letter was to communicate with your mom, dad, and your brother?
Correct.
Okay. Do you know if Dr. Wassner ever came to see you at All Children's?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Sure, yeah. Do you know if a pediatrician ever came to see you at All Children's?
I believe he did not.
Thank you for your time.
Why though? That's my question.
I do not. Okay, Ms. Kowalski, if you could go ahead and see.
Thank you.
Any further argument on this? I guess I'll start with the defense.
As a small business owner, time management is key. So today, I'm using Adobe Express to come up with
Thanks so much, Michael. It was an emotional afternoon inside this courthouse as the family of Maya Kowalski heard the testimony of a family friend, Meg Bolin, who testified about how Maya's mother, Beata Kowalski, reached out to her in 2016 about a support group for families with children suffering from CRPS. And Ms. Bolin also shared about how she spoke to Maya's mother, Beata, the day she died by suicide. Let's watch.
Did there come a time that you spoke with Beata Kowalski on January 7th, 2017, before she took her life?
She was really upset.
Okay. More so than usual, obviously.
Definitely more so than usual.
Did she seem, from the tone of her voice and what you could discern from her, that she had given up hope? Or was it a process of giving up hope?
She had given up hope. Absolutely.
Did she express anything more about why she had reached the point of no hope?
She shared that Maya was crying in the hearing, and that she just wanted a hug, and they wouldn't let her even hug her daughter. Mm-hmm. And she said that she didn't see a way that this would ever end, and that she just could not see a way to continue fighting, because no matter what she did, nothing helped Maya.
The jury also heard today
But
from
I'll
the
tell you
medical
what,
professionals who helped treat.
That is a lot. That is a lot to lay on your child. That really is. That's a lot to lay on your child.
Maya, who was then 10 years old, including the physical therapist who met with Maya in 2015 in the months leading up to her protective custody at Johns Hopkins Children's Hospital. And this therapist testified that Maya, in her estimation, was sincerely suffering from this diagnosis, and she was sincerely trying to improve. Let's watch.
Had it become clear to you whether Maya was sincerely trying?
Yes, sir.
Was Beata acting appropriately under those situations?
Yes.
I have total questions because you see how she looked in that wheelchair, at the physical therapy. But she walking and stuff. So I have questions. I just wonder. I have some questions. I do believe that she was suffering. I really do. But I have questions. I need to know more about her current
She
health.
appeared to be a loving mom that was invested
Because she's clearly getting around just fine and stuff. Research hospitals are all about innovative ideas and treatments that they want to try out on folks. Yep. And teaching hospitals they need them. I get that. Hey, Curious. How do we know the mom actually said what? What the friend's saying? Exactly. Hey, Taz. Yeah, I do. Because she's clearly not like that now. All right. So you're telling, I need to know is how is she still suffering as extreme? Evidently, she's not as when she was 9 and 10 years old. Because look, she couldn't even stand. She does now. So is there any truth to anything? Was she being heavily over medicated with 21 different meds and she was being given high doses of ketamine, high doses intravenously? I don't know. She's a kid. She's going to believe what her mom tells her. But I think it's going to be a big hill to climb for them to find that the hospital and the hospital staff were responsible for the mother's unalivement. I don't. The mother wasn't the patient. Okay. So I don't know. I have lots of questions, but hopefully, as the more I dig, the more I'll find. Yeah, that's what the friend says, but there's no proof of that. Just what the friend says. You're right, Curious. There isn't. I always question stuff like that with a grain of salt. Just like with the teacher's testimony I just showed. As upset as she was ready to cry before she even said a word. That's a red flag to me. I know you're nervous being on a witness stand, but she was a little more nervous. So that told me she wasn't sure of her testimony. And her testimony ended up hurting them because she said one thing while the paperwork with her own signature on it said the complete different. That it wasn't the hospital doing anything, that was done prior to her even coming to the hospital. The best friend I take with a grain of salt.
Health of her daughter.
But when the patient's mother entered the gym, her complaints of pain increased in frequency. Is that right?
It appears to be so.
Okay. When you asked Maya to do something,
Wait a minute.
is it true that she told you?
So once the mother would enter the room where physical therapy was given, Maya's pain would increase? The physical therapist is sitting there saying it herself, and she hates to be saying it, you can tell. But it is what's in her notes. It's what she wrote. Let's back that up 1 second here. I want to hear that again. Oh, man, I used to dread charting. Especially on Wednesdays. It was round day with all the residents. Oh, they were such a nightmare. We should have got the doctor's pay because we actually did their work. Okay. She's bearing weight through BA. Patient did not report increased pain or discomfort in ankles throughout the entire session. When patient's mother entered gym, patient's complaints of pain increased in frequency. You see, that's what I mean. The child can be conditioned. She'd been so young, by the mom. Munchausen is total brain, total power, total control. She wasn't complaining of any pain throughout the whole session. She was actually participating, and then the mom enters. I have questions. I don't have my mind made up. No matter what, at the end of the day, she's a young girl that lost her mom. She's the one that was suffering and may still be. But it's evident she's healthy, or she looks healthy anyway. I've watched hours of testimony of her live. She's getting around. I don't know. I just have questions. I need to know her current status, health-wise. Because the doctor testified that she would be crippled up in bed and wouldn't be able to do anything. But she doesn't. I don't know. I don't know.
Let's see. Is that right?
Yeah, it's very hard to diagnose.
Okay. When you asked Maya to do something, is it true that she told you she couldn't, but when she was distracted, you noted that she could?
I don't believe she told me she couldn't. I think what happened with that is that when you try to isolate a muscle, it is hard to physically do it. However, when you're able to overpower with momentum or able to do it when it's a bigger, more integrated task within the body.
No, you're trying to change it.
A neurologist also testified today for this jury to talk about, in his estimation, even though Johns Hopkins did not believe Maya was suffering from CRPS at the time she spent 3 months in their hospital, in his opinion, that was the correct diagnosis. But on cross-examination, that's something the defense took issue with. Let's watch.
If you had been contacted after the date of October 20th, 2016, at any time between October 20th, 2016 and January 14th, 2017, what would your opinion have been regarding the accuracy of Maya's complex regional pain syndrome diagnosis?
Yes, I would agree that complex regional pain syndrome was the correct diagnosis.
Did you personally ever make a diagnosis of CRPS in this patient?
No, I did not.
You never saw her during that period, did you?
That is correct.
You never saw any records from during that period, did you?
No.
Then you have no basis for that opinion, correct?
The nature of complex regional pain syndrome is that it does not typically just get better. So if she was still experiencing symptoms and signs, during that period, then it's likely, most likely, that complex regional pain syndrome persisted throughout that time period.
And Michael, coming up next week is going to be a big week as we expect the plaintiff's case in chief to call the father of Maya Kowalski, who's been sitting in there. By counsel at counsel table, so close to the jury, and he was so emotional this afternoon. He's expected to take the stand. Also, Dr. Cantu, if you watched the Netflix documentary, you'll recall that Maya traveled to Mexico for a ketamine coma, or her family calls it a ketamine miracle. He's going to voluntarily fly in next week to testify in her case, and if there's time, we could even hear from Maya herself next week, Michael.
I'm muted. Do y'all want to hear the 911 call about the mom? CRPS is very hard to diagnose. Yes, it is. It is very hard to diagnose. It's heartbreaking. And this is day one highlights of the trial. I wanted to play some of the opening statements. Let's look at day highlights. The 911 call is horrific, though. And it's from Court TV, none other than Vinnie Politan. Isn't that one of the ones Molly drools after? Because he actually thinks she's a reporter or something in her joke of true crime coverage.
Right here on closing arguments, brand new trial starting here on your front row seat to justice. And this one
I'm not muted now.
is related to a series on Netflix called Take Care of Maya. This is a heartbreaking story, a tragic story for a family, but now it's a trial. It's not a criminal trial. It's a civil trial. But it's a family that has endured what no family should ever have to endure. The question is the hospital they're suing responsible for what happened? It's a layered, complicated story, so I'll let Court TV legal correspondent Chandler.
Yeah, what they're trying to do is make the hospital financially responsible for her mother unalignment. Rope isn't always self-done. Mom seemed to care about Maya. If abuse, Mom wouldn't do herself in. Ego, in my opinion. Interesting.
Painter tell you all about it right now.
October 16th, 2016, Jack and Beata Kowalski took their 10-year-old daughter, Maya, to the Children's Hospital in Sarasota, Florida. Maya was complaining of severe stomach pains, and her parents were concerned that she was having a relapse of a debilitating condition she had been struggling with for more than a year, complex regional pain syndrome. According to MayoClinic.org, complex regional pain syndrome, or CRPS, is a form of chronic pain that can affect the arms and legs and can cause continuous burning or throbbing pain, swelling, skin lesions, or sensitivity to touch or cold. Maya's mother, Beata, was a registered nurse and had spent months in 2015 researching her daughter's symptoms and consulting with doctors before Maya was diagnosed with CRPS. Maya's medical journey was documented in the Netflix documentary, Take Care of Maya.
So let's go over your history just a little bit. Okay, approximately 3 months ago, you started having some pain down in your feet here.
Throughout the fall of 2015 and 2016, Maya was treated by doctors who used extremely high doses of ketamine to manage her symptoms. According to the DEA, ketamine is a dissociative anesthetic that has some hallucinogenic effects, but can give relief from chronic pain conditions. When Maya began complaining of stomach pains in October 2016, her father took her to Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital, where she had been treated 5 times before.
The first nurse in triage had no idea what CRPS was. And then the other ones as well. I got my wife on the phone and she talked to the doctor.
The payments are low-dose naltrexone and ketamine oral prescribed by her doctor.
The Netflix documentary details how the treating physicians in the emergency room were alarmed that Maya was being treated with ketamine and suspected she was being medically abused.
Her concern was merely administering ketamine over and over, more and more and more.
The hospital
Yeah,
filed a
see,
report.
now that changes my thought, because I thought she was getting the ketamine treatments through an IV at a clinic. I didn't know that Mom had PO ketamine at home and was treating her with ketamine. I mean, that girl was on some high doses.
Florida's Department of Children and Family Services, and Maya was sheltered at Johns Hopkins Children's Hospital for 3 months.
There are risks of respiratory failure, cardiac arrest. Her daughter could die from this, and it didn't seem like she was, worried about that.
Hospital staff accused Beata of having Munchausen by proxy syndrome and that she was intentionally making Maya sick. Maya's mother was never allowed to visit her while the case was being investigated, and Netflix's Take Care of Maya highlights how her calls to Maya were monitored by a social worker.
For just $67, you can make as many videos as you want.
That's not surprising, the monitoring of the phone calls. That's not surprising. Because all of ours, because of, unfortunately, the bios, had to be monitored as well.
Hi, how is my sunshine today?
I miss you so much, Mommy.
I do too, sweetie pie. I do too. I miss you so much. We just have to be patient, okay?
Beata Kowalski died by suicide 87 days after Maya was admitted to the hospital and taken into state custody. She left a suicide note blaming the doctors at Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital and Florida's Department of Children and Families. A year after Beata Kowalski's death, Maya's father...
Yeah, the letters that she left behind, she blamed the hospital. She blamed DCF. She said they put them into bankruptcy, all this. Yeah, she blamed the,
filed a civil suit against Johns Hopkins, seeking up to $200 million. The lawsuit accuses the hospital of negligence, false reporting, and causing emotional distress when Beata and Jack Kowalski were accused of abusing Maya. Johns Hopkins has denied the allegations in their court filings and emphasized their responsibility as mandatory reporters to protect any child that they believe might be at risk of injury or death.
It's really confusing to me how a child who's being cared for.
I got to be honest here. I'm a chronic pain sufferer. I know what the pain, I know since I was a child, how hard it is to live with constant pain. But then I'm also was a medical professional. And if a child at 9 years, 10 years old came into my ER on 21 different medications, some, I'll get the list for the next video and go over them all. Yeah. And then getting extremely high doses of ketamine by the mother at home, PO. That would raise, I'm not going to lie, that's going to raise my flag. I'm going to go right away to the doctor because that's what I should do. And that's it, just because you're going to question all the different meds. A lot of times doctors don't look up what's going to happen if you take that and this one. And unfortunately, that's just how it is. And that's really high doses of ketamine.
By a physician, and then ends up in an emergency room, and then there's all this confusion about what's going on, and this blame being pointed at the parents. I mean, I don't know exactly how all this happened. Now, the trial has started. Opening statements today. Let's take a look.
The evidence will ultimately show that these doctors and these nurses and this hospital staff acted reasonably and prudently to treat a difficult and challenging case they were presented with, and they did it consistently over 3 months. They don't have to be right under the law. All they have to be is reasonable. And we suggest to you the evidence will show that first, they probably weren't right. But even if they weren't, they were more than reasonable.
Maya Kowalski was falsely imprisoned and battered.
No, see, I'm like he said, they were reasonable. And under the conditions, under the circumstances, under the conditions where they have to report, they're going to have a battle with that. They're going to have a battle with that. I've been the mom of a sick kid. I get what she's going through. I tried to sleep at home. My daughter called and wanted me to come back, so I did. Yeah, my mom went through a lot of crap with doctors when I was little because they didn't even know what neuralgias were at the time, 40 years ago almost, well, 30, no, yeah. So I get it. I get it, but I can get both sides of it. But it is frustrating and you just want to scream. So that earlier statement that they're making a big thing out of, which of course the defense is going to use. I don't put much salt in that statement because it clearly was just a mom frustrated with the whole medical system and felt like a piece of crap because she didn't feel like she was helping her daughter. They didn't have a court order for 7 days, I think, through DCF. You have to do an emergency placement, an emergency removal. You get a court order, and then you go back but you have to get an emergency injunction. You have to get emergency room, at least here in the state of Florida, you do. Within so much time, they have to produce that emergency removal order. I mean, yeah, they can go take the kids, but they have to hurry up and get that order. So that's long. I had mine right then and there. In fact, that day the kids were in court till 7:30 at night, waiting for the order in the court little playroom. Sad.
Denied communication with her family. She was denied communication with the outside. She was told that her mother was crazy. She was told by social workers that one in particular, she would be her mother. She was put into a room and left for 42 hours with the commode just out of reach because the hospital wanted to prove that you can actually get up and walk.
I don't know why they are giving this much out, but every American.
And I'll share the links to Court TV and Law and Crime because Law and Crime's streaming the trial every day that it's on.
Out of the hospital. Unsurprisingly, this family was a wreck. Maya was not let out of the hospital even after her mother committed suicide on January 7th.
Family staying in the red.
Of 2017. The continued allegations that she was crazy and that she was trying to harm her own children, both Kyle and Maya. And the knowledge of the systematic abuse of her child in the hospital.
You're doing a good job because you're a professional. You shouldn't use the word crazy because that's not what it is. But you did it. It's a hype word to get the jury's attention. Good move.
Caused her, at the end, to lose completely and utterly her ability to control the maternal instinct, and that outweighed the survival instinct. In the process, they caused Beata Kowalski for life, denied Jack a loving wife, denied both Kyle and Maya a loving, caring, amazing mother. They caused just terrific and permanent psychological injury, as one may expect.
And there inside the courtroom, that's Maya.
And
can you imagine?
And that's going to be an uphill battle. You cannot say that it was totally this because you're only 87 days into a DCF case. That's nothing. That's a drop in a bucket, unfortunately. But I do believe at least the father would have gotten custody of her back. They're going to have a battle proving that this is all the hospital's fault when she wasn't even the patient. That's where I'm stuck at. Yeah, that chat is rough on Law and Crime, isn't it?
Imagine what she is going through in all of this, but this family is bringing this action. They want what they believe is their sense of justice for what happened to Maya, what happened to her mom, what happened to this family. And yes, it's a $200 million lawsuit, but many times in civil cases, it's about more. It's about getting your opportunity to prove to yourself, prove to the world what you're saying is true. And I think that's part of the motivation of this family. Now, again, it's a lawsuit, so ultimately it's a civil case. This will be about money and liability, et cetera. Here's what Johns Hopkins is saying. Our priority at this is part of their statement. It was a very long statement, but this is the most significant parts of it. Our priority at Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital is always the safety and privacy of our patients and their families, and we are vigorously defending against the false allegations made in the suit. Our first responsibility is always to the child brought to us for care, and we stand behind our staff's compassionate care. It is DCF and a judge, not Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital, that investigates the situation and makes the ultimate decision about what course of action is in the best interest of the child. We look forward to demonstrating to the court and jury that all of the appropriate legally required processes were followed by our staff. So that's what they're saying. Bunch of things struck me from the opening statements that we just heard. Like, they don't have to be right. The hospital doesn't have to be right. But the problem is that DCF and the judge is listening to what the hospital's saying. Let's bring in our think tank tonight. This is a tough one. Joining us now in Atlanta, Georgia, criminal defense attorney Eklund Mercy. Also with us in Phoenix, Arizona, the attorney who represented Jodi Arias, doesn't like her, Kirk Nurmi, and Holly Davis joining us from Austin, Texas tonight. Great to see you, Holly. All right. There we go. Let's, Eklund, now obviously this is it's getting a lot of publicity through the Netflix series, but this trial will take it to the next level. And I believe this family wants everyone to watch this trial for what happened. What are your thoughts about what this trial is about and what it will be like?
Unfortunately, as a criminal defense attorney and personal injury attorney, I have seen this happen more often than not. It'll be one bad decision or one employee away from your whole lives completely changing. It's really unfortunate what we have here, but often I see when a medical professional's opinion sometimes is being questioned, the moment it's being questioned, everybody's on the defense. Nobody's really focused on the task at hand. Everybody is trying to more so double down on the decision.
They're digging in. How dare you question me? I'm a doctor. I'm a nurse. You don't question me.
So like your interactions are essentially being cut by.
Okay, so there's that one. So what do you guys think? I'm gonna have to do part 2 of this because I got another live to do in a couple hours and I want to spend some time with the kids. But I want to show her testimony, her brother's testimony. Do y'all want to hear the quick 911 call? I'll play that real quick. But then I can't back it up with the story, and I wanted it to, maybe not, because I wanted to show her testimony about her mom. And I wanted to show highlights from the social worker. As well. Where did I put the 911 call? And, this one they did where she had to take her clothes and stuff off by the social workers. Unfortunately, that's part of the DCF thing. They did it to mine. I had to, I got them at 7:30 at night. The very next morning, we were down there. They were being examined from head to toe. Pictures were being taken. I mean, Dallas, his has already been taken because of the hospital. But, yeah, it's unfortunately, that is done. You can't sue them for that. It sucks to watch the kids go through that. I mean, there's these total strangers taking pictures of their bodies. And here I am, just a total stranger, but I'm the one they clung to because I was the one that, it was just, I hadn't even been with them 24 hours. It's awful what kids have to go through, but I don't know. But I'll share that with the social worker's testimony. And then I'll show, here's the chilling 911 call. Do y'all want to hear the 911 call? I'll play it real quick. If a doctor ever says, trust me and don't worry, don't trust them and you should worry. Yeah. The mother was administering doctor-ordered meds. Wasn't she? Sorry, dude, always questions doctors. Yeah, she was. But how much was she administering? She was on really high doses for a child. I mean, she's on high doses anyway. Yeah, there's a lot that goes wrong in emergency rooms. There is. And they always tell you it's emergency care. And that's true, I guess. But I'll play a little bit. This is upsetting. And I wanted to play it with the story, but I'll play it. I think this is part of their testimony. I think this is part of their testimony too about the mom. I'll play it real quick. It's not that long. Yeah, this is the trial part. This was when they talk about they played the 911 call. What? That's the dad. That's Jack Kalawowski. That's the dad. Oh, I'm sorry. That's not the. I misunderstood. That's not the dad. I'm sorry. I misspoke. It's the neighbor from across the street. That's Jack. The gentleman on the stand is the neighbor across the street. Sorry, I misspoke. Aw, a poor kid. Whoa, that's loud. Aw, wow. Oh my god. You can't hear it? Nothing is playing? I shared screen. Let me see. Mhm. All right, now you can. I'll back it up a little bit. This breaks my heart with these kids.
Front door.
Where was Kyle?
Kyle was near the laundry room door, which was just to the right of the front door. And he was trying to get into the garage. Jack was yelling, Kyle, no, you can't go in there. He was trying to keep him back.
Can I stop you there?
Mhm.
Your Honor, we'd like to, at this point, publish 2615 and allow the jury the opportunity to listen.
Is it in evidence?
It is, Your Honor.
You may.
February 2017, 7 hours, 57 minutes, and 38 seconds. Damn.
Trigger warning for anybody. This could be upsetting, so I just want to let you know it's the 911 call about the mom. Trigger warning.
What's the address? What city are you in?
Venice. Closest road is Lee Road in Venice.
Is there a name for the neighborhood?
Kyle.
What's the phone number that you're calling from?
I'll give you my cell.
Tell me exactly what happened.
She hung herself in the garage.
Oh my God, them kids.
No.
Stay on the line. Are you with her now?
Well, I'm in the garage.
How old is she?
42.
Is she awake? I just have to verify.
She's stiff. She's stiff. She's stiff. Oh my God. No, Kyle, you can't go in there.
Okay, tell me why she looks like she's dead.
No, I'm a retired deputy fire chief. I know she is.
Do you think?
Wow. I just want to reach through and just hug them kids. Wow. Yeah. They shouldn't even have to listen to this.
Think she's beyond any help?
Beyond, yes. Rigmarole. I'm sure she's really
okay.
stiff.
I'm sending I'm sending someone to assist you. Please leave everything as you found it. Is there anything we can do for you?
Okay, just please get somebody here.
They're on their way.
I'm gonna bring my son to my neighbors there. Call my neighbor.
Okay. Can you tell me the address there one more time? Okay, they're on their way.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Wow.
What'd you do with Kyle when you got there?
I grabbed Kyle and I asked Jack if he could call the fire department.
And that's the neighbor.
And just told him
the gentleman on the witness stand is a neighbor from across the street.
Out of here. And I scooped up Kyle, and he's just a skinny little boy, and I grabbed him and took him home, and we sat in a chair in my living room for probably 6 or 8 hours crying.
Did you see Jack the rest of that day?
Oh, I'm sure I did when I brought Kyle back, or I don't recall, honestly.
Maya was still at.
We've been told good things come to those who wait.
Yes.
How long was it after that morning that Maya came home from the hospital?
Not long at all. I don't remember how many days, but it was pretty quick.
So emotionally, we can all guess how Maya was at that point.
Yeah.
How was she physically when she?
Okay, see, within days, she had been returned back to their custody. Wow. That's heartbreaking.
She had been getting so much better, and just to see her going from, improving every day to coming home and
exactly.
her feet were all turned inward.
She was improving. You see what the neighbor saying when she was discharged, when she was returned back home, she improved. Her feet weren't turned, and she wasn't on those high doses of ketamine.
Pointing at each other. Again, just looking at her face, the amount of pain in that child. I think it was worse than I had ever seen at that point.
So stepping back and comparing Maya physically to where she was in late September, early October of 2016 before she went in the hospital. In January 2017, when she comes out of the hospital, was she better or worse?
she was far worse coming out of the hospital.
But you just said earlier she was walking.
What'd you do to support your brother in the next days? And
Oh,
weeks?
that's the
I
brother.
closed my shop down, and
That's the
I stayed with-
dad's brother. That's the brother-in-law, not just the neighbor. Oh,
I think I closed my shop probably for a couple months, and I stayed with him every day and helped him with
wow.
paperwork, cleaning the house, cooking meals, whatever it took, just anything, just to be there for him.
As the Kowalskis grappled with their new life, did you have the opportunity to observe Maya physically rehabilitate herself?
Yeah, and she lost her mother, so she was obviously emotionally in a different place. But from a physical standpoint, she's a lot like her mother. She was just very determined, and she was going to work hard, and she wanted out of that wheelchair, and she wanted to walk again. And she worked out constantly through the pain. I would see her on the floor in front of her wheelchair doing exercises with tears coming out of her eyes, but she would fight right through it. And then one day, after she had finally gotten up on crutches, one day I come over and she's loading up her book bag, not to go to school, but she's putting all kinds of books in her book bag, and she put it on her back just to walk down the street to her friend Riley's house on her crutches. And she wanted that extra weight on her back for exercise and the practice so she can go back to school. She's a tough kid. And I love you, Maya.
How about your nephew, Kyle? How'd he do in the 6 months, year after he lost his mother?
Very introverted.
Okay, I get that. It had to be horrific to find his mother like that and to go through this. But again, I don't see how you're going to prove it was because of the hospital and DCF. And you're not suing DCF, you're suing the hospital.
I mean, how does any kid do knowing that they're never going to see their mother again?
That's horrific.
He struggled. He was very quiet, stayed in his room, didn't interact much with anybody. And I think it was, he was trying to grieve internally. And then he eventually, long term, getting to the point where he is now, he fishes. That's his outlet. He likes to fish. It's his place to get away, I think. Maya immersed herself in her school books when she got back to school, and Kyle immersed himself in fishing. And Jack immersed himself in helping people again. I think he just, like I said, eventually turned to fishing to have his quiet time and to deal with this.
And my last question, your brother Jack, how has he changed since losing Beata?
He's changed the most, and he hides it the most.
I decided not to comment on that because I get what he's trying to show by saying that, but I don't think it's going across the way he wanted it to, or to appear to the jury, I should say, because
he's a dad and a mom, and he's the best father I've ever known. He's always been the best father I've ever known. But taking on the role of being a mother as well for those children, there's nobody in this world that could have done it better. He will do anything for his children.
I think first and foremost,
No, it was. How you doing, Amy? Hospitals are always in CYA mode. Yeah. But Stargazer's mom, no. The hospital refused to give her the high doses of ketamine. And I was under the wrong impression. I thought she was getting those high doses of ketamine at a clinic intravenously, but she was getting PO ketamine at home administered by the mom, and she was getting high doses of it. And that was what the mom was doing. She was carrying on with the ER, trying to get them to give her these high doses of ketamine. And they were not going to give a small child those high doses of ketamine just off the cuff of what a mom says. I mean, they're just not. Oh, yeah, they were aware of that. The jury's questions are amazing. I'm pretty sure there is a nurse and a former law enforcement officer. Oh. Dazzy, you do know that there's a request in to remove one of the jurors, right? To replace one of the jurors. I seen some of it on civil law, on uncivil law yesterday. I didn't get to finish it. Right, we have protocol. You have to follow it. But what I want to show in part 2 tomorrow is her testimony, her brother's testimony. And I'm not sure if I'm going to do the letter or not because it's heartbreaking. It'll rip. But those are the kind of things they need to do to reach the jury's heartstrings. Because they're going to have a tough battle otherwise. The hospital had to report it to DCF. No ifs, ands, or buts. DCF makes the final decisions, regardless. It's just an uphill battle. I feel awful for them kids. And she seems to be doing better. She looks better. And I'm praying that she is. And she's getting some relief, whatever that may have been. But I got some more I want to dig into tonight after the kids go to bed and watch. After hubby goes to bed and watches. So I can actually listen to it. But the trial's still going on, so don't know what the verdict's going to be. They said the trial could be 2 months. So to the end of this month, so there's weeks left. Medical malpractice takes so long. Oh, I can bet on that when she went to the ER. The immediate reaction, because I've had it happen. Seen it done. Without even knowing the dosage. As soon as the medication list of 21 meds was given, which I'm going to try to get a hold of and go over with you guys. I know some of it, but I don't want to state it without having the actual list. She was on a lot of medication. But knowing that and the mention of ketamine, a narcotic of any type, automatically you get looked at. But then to find out the high doses that a child was given, it's really going to make them look. Yeah, I'm just about done. Go ahead. The cost of the trial is going to be, oh, I'll tell you what. I know a trial that lasted 1 day. 1 day. Medical malpractice. The total money that because it was settled, the total money the lawyers got out of the settlement was over $300,000. Just for 1 day of trial, it cost them $88,000 to be ready for that 1 day. You got to have so many experts. You got to have the props. To be able to show. Yeah, it was a lot. All the depositions. There's a lot. You think they're trying for November 8th? Ketamine Girl was used as a nickname. Wow. I mean, I'm not saying that. I don't know if the mother had Munchausen. I would like to know more about the mom's past because I did see some things about there being some question about mental health. But I want to see some facts on that. I just really think they have an uphill battle as far as blaming the hospital for the mom's unalivement. It's sad, but maybe they'll reach a settlement and this won't have to go. But I doubt that at this point. But you never know. Yeah, the mother was an RN. The plaintiff side has already been given extra time. Oh, I'm sure they'll both get it. Especially now there's question with the juror. I'm not sure what, like I said, I only got to watch a little bit of Uncivils. I'm going to go back and finish it. But I don't know. Like I said, that was really high doses of ketamine. But I have never put a piece of candy in your mouth and not want to chew while you're on live. I just need something for my throat. I got another live to do. I've never done 2 lives in one day. This is the first. But I figured we could come back and have some laughs on the Tata. Got some things to show you. And a little something on the Daisy Farm and Janky situation. But I didn't want to do it with this one. Besides that, I need more time for this one because there's a lot more to go over. I still don't. Which side is questioning the juror? I believe, I'm not sure. I like I said, I only listened to the first couple minutes and I had to go because my little one's sick. And he wanted to lay down with mommy, so I had no choice. I think it's their side. I'll get the highlights of that and show it. Tomorrow when I come back to show the rest of it, I'll show the highlighted parts of why they want the juror removed. They'll probably both get extra time. Because sometimes witnesses can be delayed or experts can be delayed or involved in another trial. And that's another thing with experts. They're paid to give testimony. There's a lot of good ones out there, but there's ones out there that will give the testimony needing to fit your narrative because that's what they're hired to do. So you really got to watch the experts. The judge wasn't happy. Yeah. Will be the first time. There's been some snapping going on. In fact, the one video clip I got ready to show you is, well, like I said, they dropped the civil lawsuit against the social worker. But that's another thing. I'm going to show you the social worker's testimony. I want to show the highlights of that. I got the highlights of that. Yeah, kind of wanted to smack her. Yeah, not friendly kind of person. But I'm going to get off here so I can spend a little bit of time with my kids before I go live. I had to do it because I was supposed to go live last night, but I couldn't because my little one, he was sick, so he needed mommy. So I have to do 2 today to make up for it. Besides that, I never did that in a day. It should be fun. It should be tiring, but fun. But I will see you guys if you can make it back later tonight. I think it's like 8 o'clock. If not, I'm going to finish up this tomorrow with what I can for right now because the trial's still going on. But thanks everybody for joining me. I really appreciate you. I do have channel memberships now. Please hit that like button and subscribe for me. And I'll see you guys in a little bit. Talk to you later.